Welcome to Just Travel with Sandy. I'm Sandy, travel advisor and author of The Travel Lounge Life. It's not a guidebook, it's part memoir and really how travel shaped my life. And I feel like there's a lot of busy professional women who want more than just a trip. So they're seeking luxury, peace, and meaningful growth through travel. So for me, travel is a lot about transformation. And so my mission is to inspire you to transform your life through intentional, soulful journeys. Because, like I said, it's not just about travel, it's about transformation. And I do know that planning can feel overwhelming with details, logistics, language barriers. What if something gets lost? What if a plane gets delayed? All the things, right? So, this podcast gives you structure and inspiration, clear practical tips alongside real stories and mindset shifts. It's about helping you feel prepared and confident while also leaving space for spontaneity, connection, and those once in a lifetime moments that make travel unforgettable. So, whether you're someone who loves having a plan, thrives on meaningful connection, needs the facts before jumping in, or is ready for the next adventure, this space is for you. So, let's dive in. I'm super excited today to have with me Amy Keats. So, Amy Keats and I connected through a women's group, I guess, and totally hit it off. The gray hair is one thing, but the travel, I don't know, the energy, I just, immediately really hit it off with Amy. And she's a Jersey girl. She spent 30 plus years in the textile business in New York. So, not too far from Wyoming in the Hudson Valley, and has traveled a lot, mainly to Paris and Italy for business. Amy, tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us what you do now, and why did you pivot from textile to travel? That sounds nice. Textile to travel.
Yes. So my background is textile design, and as such, I had the opportunity to travel extensively not extensively, perhaps more, I guess the word would be frequently, 4 to 6 times a year to Italy to lay out blankets and do the technical communication with the mill. And while that was great fun, I really forged a dear and deep friendship with my friend Cinzia, who was my export manager. And when you have an international business, I think as anybody knows that's in that game or another game that's international, the amount that you lean on someone and that you count on your counterpart who's in a different time zone to just really get the job done and to anticipate your needs and to communicate thoroughly is just so important. And she was really my person. She anticipated what I need. I would wake up and I'd have I'd have a question and she'd have 4 answers for me, 4 different ways I could go. And it was amazing. And every time I would go to Italy, she would say, "Oh, if you only have half a day, or if you have a day, or whatever it is you have, I'd like to show you a little something while you're here." And it was always something off the beaten path. It was something I probably never had heard of, would never have thought to discover on my own. And so I was so lucky to have the opportunity to taste new foods, to go little places around the corner and down that street and into the alley. And oh my gosh, look at this kind of thing. It was just the best.
Oh,
So when I pivoted from the textile industry about 5 years ago, which I did largely to take care of two elderly parents, I thought a lot about what I really wanted to do. Because even though that was a great career and it afforded me much, I knew I wasn't done. And I thought back to our darkest days in the textile business, of which there were many. And we would joke about, just bringing Americans over and she would show them around and it could be as simple as that. And that was a 30-plus-year-old memory that I never forgot. And I thought, you know what? I think we can do this. And so I reached out to her about a year and a half ago, and we began in earnest planning what would become Kefi Tours.
love it.
And so that's how the pivot happened. I figured I surely couldn't be the only one that enjoyed travel like this, right? I figured there had to be a whole group of people out there that have been there, they've done that, they've done the big tours, they've been to the big cities, and they loved the culture, they loved the food, they loved the history, but they wanted it in a different way, in small group form and more intimate.
Well, and that's what I love what you said when we talked the first time. It's that intentional travel, right? It's that
Yes.
deeper than checking the Ponte Vecchio and the,
Yes.
David. I mean, yes.
Yep.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I've seen David probably 10 times, and I will see him again because there's
Right.
just something that stirs you. But there is so much, so much, so much more. So I love, love, love that. And the group tours in Italy. And there's so much of Italy, right? So you have a trip planned that you're going on?
Have a trip planned, yep, for September 14th to 21st, and we're going to the Italian Alps in a fabulous town called Murano. Murano with an E, not a U. And we'll be traveling in an area that I think, just in general, so few Americans have been to. And the reason we chose that was because it really felt like our essence. It was right, it was quintessentially off the beaten path.
Yep. Right? It's
Yes,
Südtirol.
that's
So
exactly right.
and it's so funny because Südtirol, because it borders on Austria, it's
Correct?
actually an incredibly popular vacation spot for Germans and Austrians.
Yes.
So, but you're absolutely right. I don't know many Americans who know about the area. So
Right.
I love that you're doing that, introducing to, because it's not what people think of Italy. Like it's a
Right.
completely different vibe. And I love that because there's so many different, I mean, even if you go down to Sicily, that's a whole nother ball of wax,
Right,
right?
exactly.
So yeah,
Exactly.
yeah, I
And
love that.
since my history with Italy has really been Milan, and Venice and Florence because of the textile
Sure.
and fashion aspect, I felt most comfortable starting there. Um,
Absolutely. I
and it's
think
a
that's so
hiker's
great.
paradise. And so it's got a very laid back vibe. It's not stuffy. People do not have to bring their good wardrobe and their casual
I
wardrobe.
know.
It's very kind of chill, to use a
I
word I
love
never
that.
use. It's laid back, and we're staying at a great five-star resort, and you might not even have to change for dinner. And I love that too.
Absolutely.
It's like the highest end of laid back, which I think is
I love
kind of
that.
a perfect combination.
Absolutely. When I went to Ireland with the group in June, there was a lady with me, and I loved so much that she came. She was, or she is 71, and she'd never been outside of America,
Wow.
which I absolutely love that for her.
Hmm.
And what drives me crazy, and I hope I don't step on anybody's toes, but it really drives me crazy, is that so many people have so much fear and anxiety of leaving the country, and because of a language barrier, because
Hmm.
of what can happen, because they don't know where to start researching.
Right,
And
right.
again, I hope I don't step on anybody's toes, but there's more than Disney out there.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. Yeah. In fact, and I'm going to definitely be stepping on toes here when I say the following. Very proud to have never been there. So proud. And that is because I think we're really, really curious people.
Yeah.
And for me, it was a job. It was my job that required me to travel. And I
Yeah.
was so lucky to do that.
Yes. Yes.
Really, really lucky. And
Yes.
I also was very lucky to meet I didn't know it at the time, but who would become a lifelong friend of mine
Exactly.
and who took me by the hand and
Mhm.
exposed me to really unusual flavor profiles that I thought, my mother was an amazing cook, but boy, I'd never had those two things together. And we would very good-naturedly cajole each other,
Yep.
try things, and let's
Love
do
that.
this and let's go here. And oh gosh, I'll try it if you do. That kind of mentality. So I think for people that have this reticence or this fear of
Yeah.
traveling, just getting over the hurdle one time, I think anybody's hooked.
Exactly, exactly. And I love that you found that person, right? Because that is so priceless, especially over there that can show you around
Yes.
and speaks the language and all that good stuff. So I absolutely love that. I actually linked arms sort of with a lady that I met through the travel industry who is from India but raised in Singapore.
Hmm.
And she also speaks multiple languages. Where I'm English, French, German, she's more Indian and, I don't even know what they speak in Bali, Indonesian, I guess. And is the language. And so it's good to have somebody to collaborate with
Oh,
and
absolutely.
that
Yes.
knows
Yes.
that and that, it's more fun doing it together.
I think it is.
Um,
And I'm so impressed that you speak multiple languages. I mean, it's amazing to me. I can get by in Italian. I can understand a lot. I can
mm,
make myself
mhm.
understood. And I think if more people just took a humble approach and just realized, hey, you're going to screw up, you're not going to be able to do it. But I think people's first nature is to help,
Absolutely.
you know?
Absolutely.
And
I was talking to somebody about this the other day. So through an expat group, I met a gal from Germany who's literally from my region in Germany, which is a very small region. So that
wow.
was like, really? You're from, I know, whatever. And but then she also has and she's lived in China for 10 years and another 10, so 10 years consecutively and another 10 years. And I
Wow.
have a huge love for China because my father was born and raised in China, and China, I just love China. And we did actually a recording, a podcast, because a lot of people look at, like, a lot of people only know about China what they hear in the news and the
Sure.
negative, and it's made in China.
Yes.
But the
Yes.
culture, the people are unbelievable, and the variety, and we're actually planning a trip to China in 26 September.
Amazing.
So that being said, and I lost my train of thought. Yeah, she also she speaks Mandarin Chinese. That's what it is. So like you just said with Italian people, if you try to make an effort, right?
Yes.
It doesn't
Yes.
matter. You don't have to be perfect. And I think that's what a lot of us as humans, we want it not until we're 100% are we going to do something.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
And
Yes.
that's just not life. It's not realistic.
I agree completely. Yeah. I mean, I have another great, best friend that I traveled to Paris with forever for gosh, at least 15, almost 20 years together. And I mean, the pratfalls that we experienced as two Americans in Paris and getting on
Paris.
the wrong train and just laughing ourselves silly. I mean, those are the moments that make the memories that you repeat over and laugh forever, It's
Exactly.
priceless. Yeah.
Exactly. It is priceless. It's not about going. I mean, yes, it's going to see David or the Louvre, but it's about that. So backtrack a little bit. How did you get into the textile industry?
That's a great question. Okay, so as a younger person, I sketched a lot. I was forever drawing. Even as a really little kid, I don't know how I discovered, Vogue and Bazaar and all of these magazines before the age of 10 was kind of weird because my mother wasn't into fashion. And that got me sketching and gaining a great awareness of proportion and color and scale and merchandising and how just everything went together. I used to draw families, believe it or not, but I couldn't draw hands. So everybody had their hands behind their backs.
That's
And I would
cute.
label them like ladies spring, young men's fall. It's
Oh,
crazy.
wow.
But I took almost every commercial art and drawing class, and our high school had a really rich arts curriculum. So I took a lot of that and I thought, I really want to go into fashion design or fashion illustration. And we went to a visit at Philadelphia Textile, and the guy I interviewed with happened to say, geez, I know you're really into fashion design, but would you consider textile design? And that was it. That was all it took
Wow.
was that little tweak, that little perspective shift. And that's what I pursued. It's about 50% engineering and 50% aesthetic and art driven. And it was just a very technical training. And I loved it. I just loved it. And I designed fabrics for about 6 years. And it was back in the dark ages before CAD. Can you even imagine? I was in a
That's
back room by myself. It was very solitary. And I'm a people person. Happiest days were when I'd get called in the showroom to make a change, a color
um,
question, a structure. Should we make this a herringbone or should this remain twill or whatever? And I loved it. So
nice.
then I made the leap to sales. And once I did that, having that strong technical background was awesome.
Absolutely.
And that's what got me into the international
Travel. And that's
arena.
interesting, how the universe, right? How it just one step after the other. And while you were talking and saying that, I saw this is so funny. I saw this morning on, I don't know, somewhere socials or whatever. I saw that there's Devil Wears Prada #2 coming out.
Yes.
And you actually remind me of Meryl Streep in a nice way in that I'm like, especially when you were talking about textile and fashion, I'm like, oh my God, yes, you could totally play that role. Except you're
Oh,
nice.
that's genius. And I cannot wait for part two. I can't wait
I
for
know.
mostly for Stanley Tucci. I mean, yes.
Did you know there was a second one coming out?
I didn't know
I
until,
didn't
like
either.
you said, the socials started coming out, and I thought, oh my God, this is going to be the best.
Yes, 26 it's coming out and I was like, "Oh my God." I sent it to my daughter. I'm like, "That's amazing," because I am the last thing but a fashionista. Like literally the last thing. Like, and although I love people and I'm good with people, I'm an introvert. I'm happy here with my dog. So
Oh,
getting dressed for me is like, okay,
right.
what three things do I have? So I'm good that I found you in my
Oh,
life
oh my
because you
God,
can guide
absolutely.
me in that direction because
And
I'm
people
like,
and people that know me best know that I live a life of black and white. So I'm wearing black today. Oh, and gray is my midtone.
yep,
So you
that's
can
me
never go
too.
wrong.
Like, so talk to me a little bit. So you went to Paris. Did you go there for business too, or
Always business. Paris was always business. So there's
okay?
an international textile show that happens twice a year.
Hmm.
And as the representative for the mill that I'd be representing at the time, it was required that you
Right,
go to this because the calendars for Europe and the United States are different. So in many ways,
right.
or many times, the last open to buy for the Americans was right there at the window. They had to make that trip and see what
Nice.
the European mills had to offer. So,
That's so
um,
interesting.
yeah.
That's so
So,
interesting.
it's going to sound ridiculous and haughty, but it's a tough trip. You get there, you land, you're working a trade show, you're commuting from the center of Paris out towards the airport, you know,
Right,
for three
right.
days, rinse, repeat. But it was great. I got to know
Yeah,
Paris like the back of my hand, you
yeah.
know, and talk about, again, I took French in high school and all they want you to do is just try. And the
Absolutely.
minute you try, they are gracious and lovely and warm, and they can't do enough for you. And I think that's what a lot of Americans don't understand.
I'm so glad you said that because I get it all the time. The French are so rude. I'm like, well, or the Parisians, not the French. I'm like, not really. I mean, they say New Yorkers are rude too, but it's just a different way of like, I mean,
Yes.
Germans are as direct as they come, and I've been told that I'm extremely rude because
Oh
I'm
no.
just direct. I'm not
Yes,
rude.
yes,
And it's
yes.
the same in
Correct.
Paris. So I was actually raised, the town Zweibrücken where I was raised was literally 4 hours from Paris. So
Oh,
we used to go
fabulous.
and, in Germany, it's a little bit different upbringing. So at 15, 16, we'd hop on a train and we go to Paris for the weekend.
Yes.
And my daughter actually spent her first, so she went to NYU and spent her first year at the Paris campus in
Oh,
NY,
fabulous.
and they traveled and
Yes.
oh, I love Paris. Le Marais. Oh, I love Paris.
Yes.
And
The
talking about
Marais. Yes.
getting lost and yeah,
And there's not, you can't go wrong getting lost in Paris. You just
no,
can't.
no,
There's
no.
something to marvel at around every corner.
Yep.
Yes.
Absolutely. And the off the beaten track thing too. I personally, a lot of people don't like, but I absolutely love Venice. But I love being in Venice and going again to those little roads and literally being lost. And it's like a maze. And oh, here you're back because you'll always get back to the canals.
Yeah.
You'll, oh, and
Yes.
so
Yes.
getting to me, actually, my favorite way to travel, if I'm in a new place, going for a walk and just going for a walk and getting
Yes.
lost and
Yes.
figuring it out and asking
Absolutely.
people for directions. You know, so
Absolutely.
yep.
Yes. In fact, my some of my best earliest memories as a kid were hopping in the car with my dad. He would always say, "Who wants to go for a ride?" And I'd be like, yes. And, would always culminate in an ice cream cone or some sort of treat. But we had no agenda. We had no idea we were going. We'd get to a T and he would say right or left. And we'd pick one and
I
we'd
love
go.
that.
And I loved it. And I hated the ride to end. Because
Oh,
the two of us were very much two peas in a pod,
yep,
insatiably curious.
yep.
And just never wanted the party to end a
The
little
end.
bit. You know what I
Yep.
mean?
That's
Yeah.
beautiful. It's funny because that's also something I talk about in my book. I remember being a little girl and we'd travel in Europe and my mother would drive. My mother was the driver.
Interesting.
Yeah, my mother was the driver. And my father would either be in the front or I'd be in the front with the map
I love
because
it.
we didn't, there was
Of
no such thing as
course.
GPS back in the day. For those young people that are listening, there was no GPS and there was a map. And I'd say, Mama, Mama rechts, right at the, or got, straight ahead. And I'd be like reading the maps and it was so fun. And then, the maps sometimes and they'd be confusing. And we'd
Yeah.
go, we drive to Paris. I took the train with my friends, but when my parents would drive or to
Right.
the Bayerische Wald, I don't know, the Bavarian forest. I don't know. I don't even know what that's called, but the Bayerische Wald close to the Czech border. And, Joe, so we drive places
Oh,
and we would get lost sometimes. And
yes.
there was no GPS to bail us
Yes,
out.
and that's when we discover the most amazing little jewels, right? That we go back to.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yes.
And the back road. So in all your travels, business or not, it doesn't matter. Travel is travel. And with Cinzia, the way she took you to all the places, like what is one thing that you would say to somebody that's listening that maybe hasn't traveled outside of the country or wants to, but something may be holding them back? What would you say to that
I
person?
would say grab a friend, grab your best friend. If your best friend is able and ambulatory and can do it, just pick a place. It doesn't matter where you start. I just figure it doesn't matter where you start. Go anywhere. And once you've bought that ticket, research everything you can. Get all the little nuggets that you can see, but don't feel like don't have a list of things to accomplish.
Mm-hmm.
Allow
Love
yourself
that.
to go. I always feel like the day I land is one of my favorites
Yeah.
because it's too soon to check into the hotel. How I acclimate is I just go, I never take a nap, and we stumble. We have a few espresso or a cappuccino or whatever until we feel that with good conscience we can switch to alcohol. And then
An
and,
Aperol Spritz?
right, exactly. And then we make that changeover and we laugh because we're tired, we were relaxing, we're excited to be there. And it's kind of in that first day that you get the inspiration for how you see the rest of the trip going. You
I
know?
love that. That
Yeah,
is so true. The first day, especially in a new place, even not in a new place. So when I was in Ireland, I mean, I've been to Ireland countless times because my ex-husband's from Dublin, so that's where we went, to visit
right.
parents, blah blah blah. I've been to Dublin so often. But I got there and she actually did give me early check-in, so I put my suitcase up. But then I had to run some errands because my
Right.
participants were coming and I had to get some things and but still I it was a part of Dublin that I wasn't as familiar with. And I just went. And even though I was on my own, I grabbed a cup of coffee and I got potatoes, my favorite chips on the planet that you can only get in Ireland. Well, you
Yes.
maybe you can get the potatoes, they're so good. And just, just enjoy and the smells and the culture and the accents, even if it's the same language. I love the Irish accent. So just absorbing all that. I love that.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes, absolutely. In fact,
Yep.
last time or two times ago, we went going to Milan for another textile show. We were in a different part of the city. We'd never been there before, and we didn't know the lay of the land at all and ended up asking our taxi driver, "Hey, where can we get a cup of coffee?" And he said, "Well, there's a youth hostel just over there." So we went, and it was so we just sat there and looked at the artwork and the plants and the really unusual lighting fixtures. And I said, I don't want to look at this place. This is
Yeah.
fantastic. And we
Yeah.
never would have chosen this place
Right. Right.
had we been left to our own devices. And
Yep.
it was a more commercial neighborhood than we were used to staying in. And we had some of the best sushi of our lives. So I would
Nice.
say just let it come to you. Just explore and let it happen.
I love, love, love
Yeah.
that. That's great. So before we wrap it up, Amy, two things. You
Yes.
have this trip coming up. Do you have any other trips in the future? If somebody, and I will link all of Amy's information in the show notes if you want to get in touch with her, if you're, looking to go to Italy or wherever, she's going. I will link all that in the show notes. So do you have any other trips planned?
I do. I have a trip planned for June. Again, it's June of 2026, going to
Okay.
Murano. And that trip is going to have a little more of a wine tasting
Oh,
exploration
nice.
kind of bent to it. We're still going to go to the Dolomites, but we are going to concentrate and focus on wines of that region. So I thought that could be a lot of fun,
Mm,
right? I mean,
absolutely.
when is wine not fun?
Well,
Yeah. And then
absolutely.
and then in September, we're cooking up something for Lake Como, but in
Oh,
a way
nice.
that's off the beaten track.
Nice.
Not commercial, a little
Right.
different, away from the crowds.
Right. And I think that's what you and I have in common with our trips,
Yes, we
that
sure
they're
do.
off the beaten track, that they're not your, and again, there's nothing wrong with it,
No,
but
not at all. Not at
I've
all.
yeah, I do like to do things. I like to do things a little differently to begin with. So, anyway, before we wrap it up, is there anything else? And I'm super glad you mentioned those trips. Anything else you wanna share?
I think that I would say go for it for people that haven't traveled. For people that have traveled and are looking for something just a little different, look at the both of us. We have a very similar ethos. We've been around the block. We are a good time. We hardly know each other, but yet we know we are a
Right.
good time. Enjoy the engagement and the camaraderie and the intimacy that small group travel off the beaten path offers you.
I love that, and that is so true. So, for those of you who, are looking at an India trip or Singapore, Bali, and I'm looking at my whiteboard here. India is in February next year, and then Singapore, Bali will be in March next year. And who knows what else is to come. Like I said, Italy, if Italy's on your radar, I will put Amy's information in the show notes. You can reach out to her. So thanks for tuning in today to Just Travel with Sandy. And if you're ready to start planning, want the reassurance of a clear path, or just need some inspiration for what's possible, reach out. You don't have to do this alone. And I'm especially excited about not only my upcoming trip to India, but I have some really fun stuff in store for you. So stay tuned. And till next time, keep dreaming, exploring, and remember, every journey starts with a single step. There you
Thank you
go.
so much.